If your sunset skies always turn out muddy, it's probably not your painting. It's that you never let the colors breathe before you moved on. Hey, friends, and welcome back to my YouTube channel. Or if this is your first time here, I'm Rachel, and this is Highlands Artistry. I love showing you watercolor the way that it actually works, mess ups and all, because I want you to walk away feeling like this is something you can actually do, not something you already have to be good at. So grab your paints, get comfortable, and let's paint together. We've got our paper, which is 100% cotton watercolor paper. We have a pencil. This one is a 2B. I've got two brushes that I'm going to be using. It is a 2-inch flat brush and then a smaller flat brush. I also have these two. I don't know if I'm gonna use them or not, but they're there for backup. Got some water and my studio palette ready to go. All right, our first step is to lay down a piece of painter's tape. You don't want to use masking tape because it will rip your paper, but you can either use painter's tape or a washi tape and lay that down where you want your horizon line. If you just want to paint a sky and no water reflections, you can actually skip this step, which will make your sky painting probably take half the time. Anyway, if you are laying down your piece of tape, press firmly along that edge so water and paint don't seep underneath. Now, before we put brush to paper, I highly recommend pre-mixing your colors on your palette. It's easier to achieve a smooth wet on wet blend instead of mixing as you go and risking the paper drying too fast. So the colors that I'm using for today are cerulean blue, ultramarine blue, rose madder permanent, new gamboge, and neutral tint. So the first color I am mixing is cerulean blue mixed with ultramarine for our sky blue. Then I'm going to make two piles of rose madder permanent. One will be mixed with new gamboge to make a really beautiful orange. And the other pile is going to be mixed with both of our blues to make two different color purple. So you're going to mix rose madder permanent with cerulean, and then a separate pile will be rose madder permanent with ultramarine. And then our last little pile is going to be new gamboge by itself. We are going to grab our 2-inch flat brush and wet the sky with clean water. Then you're going to go in with your smaller flat brush and we're going to work light to dark. Start with the lightest, brightest part of the sky, which is going to be our new gamboge. Make sure you use lots of water and not a lot of pigment. And then we're going to work our way down the value scale. So as you get further from the sun, you want to get darker into your deepest, darkest tones. So it'll be yellow to orange to the pinks and purples, and finally the blue. What I mean by letting the colors breathe means leaving a little bit of white space between your colors so that they're not bleeding and blending all together and creating mud. For example, you don't want your yellow to mix with the blue or else our sky is going to be green. In the same way, we don't want to mix our purple and orange or it's going to create mud. You want to lay the colors next to each other but not touching. You can also play with the saturation of your sky. So for me, this base layer is the lightest, and then we are going to build saturation where the clouds are, adding more pigment as we go. If your paint starts to feather or bloom, that is a good sign that it is time to stop because our paper is getting a little bit too dry. We're going to lose our wet on wet effect. After that paper is dry, I mix a deep purplish blue for the distant mountains. You want this very saturated, so mostly pigment and not a lot of water. I mix ultramarine and rose madder permanent. As I lay it on the horizon line, making random bumps as I go, but I want to keep those mountains shallow to let the sky be the focal point. As I work closer to the sun, I add more pink and less blue, and also more water and less pigment. That will give the effect as if the sun is glaring and super bright. Let's let our mountains dry completely before starting on the water. I'm going to lay a piece of tape down so our water washes don't interfere with our sky and mountains. And I'm using the same exact color mixes from our first wash. So if you need to, take this time and mix some more of those colors so that you don't need to mix colors as you go. So we are doing the same wet on wet technique. We are laying down clean water first with our large brush. and then I'm going to lay purple down underneath the purple section of the sky, then orange, then yellow. If your sky's a little bit different, just mirror your colors down into the water. And then you're going to let that color flow down your page. You can also tilt your page up to make the watercolor flow better. If you notice water pooling at the bottom of the page, don't freak out. Just grab your paper towel and soak up some of that water so we don't create blooms. We are going to mix a deep dark blue using ultramarine and neutral tint and start laying that at the bottom of the page. And as there's less pigment on your brush, you're going to work your way up and create little horizontal lines that will mimic waves in the water. Again, you will be able to tell if your paper starts to get too dry if you see some feathering, which happened in my painting. So we are going to let that layer dry. And then I'm going to peel the tape. My tape did not seal completely. I might not have waited long enough. I was not patient before putting that tape down. So some paint seeped underneath my tape. So all I'm going to do to correct that, or roll with the punches, is take a clean damp brush and I'm going to blend those colors into the mountains. Once again, letting that dry. And this next layer is where the water really comes to life. I mixed a watered down wash of neutral tint and using my big 2-inch brush, and I'm going to glaze it right over the top. This layer helps some of those mistakes and covers up some of that feathering that we saw. While this layer is wet, I'm going in with varying consistencies of paint. So I'm using cerulean, ultramarine, and neutral tint to create soft waves in the foreground. I'm also getting darker and more saturated with my color as I move to the foreground. After that layer is dry, I'm grabbing my pencil and I'm going to draw in a duck shape. You can choose pretty much any silhouette that you want in the foreground. If you want to do a duck, if you want to do some foliage, you can do leaves, grass, trees, whatever you see fit. Mix any dark color. I use ultramarine and neutral tint with a little touch of rose madder to make a really dark purple. And I'm just going to paint in that duck shape. Next up, I'm painting the buoys. I'm using that same color, just watering it down slightly so that they look further away. And all the buoys are just rectangles, and then honestly, a little squiggly line underneath to represent water ripples and the reflection of the buoys on the water. This is the part where I always end up just stopping for a second because every single time I look up and see a real sky doing this with pinks and purples and gold all blending into each other, I think God really is the original artist. He was doing color blending and gradients like this long before any of us ever picked up a brush. Psalm 19:1 says, "The heavens declare the glory of God, and the sky above proclaims his handiwork." And honestly, a photo never does it justice. You can try to snap the picture of a sunset like this, like I have done thousands of times before, and it just falls flat compared to standing there and actually seeing it in person. That's kind of what I love about painting skies. It's my little way of chasing after something I could never fully recreate. It just makes me stop in my tracks and be grateful. Well, that's all from me today. I will see you guys in the next one. Until then, stay creative, stay faithful, and stay rooted in grace. Bye, guys.